Welcome everybody to our second discussion of Planetarium software. Last week we covered Starry Night and Sky Safari, which are commercial products. And tonight we will cover Carte du Ciel and Stellarium, which are both free products. And first of all, we'll have Mark demonstrate Stellarium. And I would tell everybody that he has used Stellarium a lot more than I have used Carte du Ciel, but Stellarium is free. It's really a nice product. And I think that it's very popular right now. So many of you might be listening to evaluate that for your own needs. So he may go a little more than the 15 minutes that I had originally allocated. If he does go over, then I'll just cut my part short. And at the end of all of it, I would have a few words to say about the 4 different titles that we've covered with these demonstrations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and I'm going to have to mute my microphone and my speakers because he and I are in the same office and we're trying to avoid echoes. So with that, I can turn it over to Mark.
Okay, I'm off mute, and so I hope everybody can hear me.
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm going to do Stellarium. I'm a relatively new Stellarium user. I was a user of the Sky for many, many years, the Sky 6 most recently. And it's starting to show its age because of the operating system updates ever since it was released. So I wanted to try something new that was going to be a little bit more modern, and I decided to just to jump into Stellarium and see what I could do with it. So tonight I'm going to be demonstrating version 0.21.1, which is a couple point releases behind the most current version. So there might be a few things that change if you got the most current, but I think things are going to be pretty close to the what I'm going to show tonight. And I want to mention that Stellarium will work on Windows, it'll work on Linux, and it'll work on Mac, and it'll also work on mobile devices, but I think you have to pay some for some of the mobile products. I'm not sure about this, but I think the Android version might be free, but the Apple version isn't. So that somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that should be kind of close to what's the truth. As Phyllis mentioned before I started, I'm going to go through a lot of stuff here. And so I'd appreciate it if you hold your questions to the end, and you can put stuff into chat to make sure it doesn't get forgotten. Phyllis will watch the chat. We'll address the questions towards the end. So I rehearsed this once, and we're going to go, maybe between 15 and 20 minutes if I can keep on my schedule. And I've got a lot to cover, and the best stuff is kind of at the last. So we're going to go on from there. So I'm going to show, what Stellarium can do, but I can't show some of the things. I'm not going to show a couple things. Stellarium can control a telescope with a plug-in, but I can't show you that. Stellarium can be controlled by other programs, like, for example, Phyllis's Deep Sky Planner. It can make the Planetarium software move around and do things. I won't be showing that. And then another thing that it will do, but I'm not going to show, is the horizon that Windows or that Stellarium will show is going to be. You could put a custom horizon on there, but I can't show that. I'm not going to show that. And you can find instructions on that on the web. Let me share my desktop. Yeah, let's see where that is. Share screen. And I'm going to share this one. Okay, can everybody see that? Oh, let me hit the share button. How about that?
Much better.
Okay. So this is what the basic screen looks like. I'm going to show some of the menu things first, and then I'm going to show more of the screen. I'm assuming that you all can see my cursor as it floats across the screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, to me, one of the most important things, by the way, as you slide your mouse pointer towards the left, and obviously I'm demonstrating the desktop version, you find the help window. I think this is a really important thing to look at because it's got all the keyboard shortcuts that Stellarium has, and there are a lot of them. And what I did is you can just kind of drag down and cut these out of the help and then paste them into a text document. And I printed out and then I highlighted the ones that I used the most. And so not only does it kind of help you move around quickly, but it also shows you things you probably never realized were even in there. So I'm going to look at the menus to start. This is the location window. So this is where you set your current location. In my case, it's Earth, Cary, North Carolina. This is the date time window. It'll pop up this interface, and this is the main way you set the date and time, although there are many other ways to do it and to make time change. This is the sky. It controls the way the sky looks. So you've got what the general version of the sky looks like on your screen. You've got your solar system objects, how you can configure them to look, how you can configure deep sky objects to look, especially the catalogs. You know, you can display objects from catalogs. And there are a lot of catalogs that are, not there by default, on your screen. Then my favorite window, it's the search window. So the search window allows you just to type in right here some object, and it'll search the databases that Stellarium has, and it'll find it for you if it's in there. But one of the things that I like is it keeps a record of your last few objects, and then you can just choose it off the menu if you've already searched for it once before, which is pretty cool. Another thing it can do is if you don't know a specific object, but maybe you know where it is, you can key in the right ascension and the declination on this screen. This is the configuration window. This is a very important screen that you'll be using. The first thing that I think is important is when you select an object. I'm going to select M47, for example. Up here on the top left, you'll see the stuff that the catalogs have on M47. Now, unlike, say, some of the programs that you saw last week where you get a nice super long text description of what it is, this is more just information that might be out of the NGC catalog or some other catalog. But if you want to see everything that's available on that object, you can click the All Available button. If you want to look at a very, very short version of what it has, you can hit the short. And then you can go and show a custom version. And the custom version is what I use. You just select the things that are important to you and use it. Another thing that I really, and I struggled with this until I got a few weeks under my belt. If you start Stellarium during the day, it's going to come up in a daytime sky, and it's hard to see the menus, and it's hard to see stuff in the sky. So you can click a button here called System Dates, Startup, Date and Time. You can click System Date at, and in my case, I chose 8 o'clock. So every time I start Stellarium, it'll come up at 8 o'clock. When it gets into the summer, I probably will change that to maybe 9 or 10 o'clock when it's really dark. but at least Stellarium will start, with the dark sky. And finally, our plugins. The most important thing in plugins to me is the solar system editor. And with the solar system editor, you can configure and add solar system objects such as comets and asteroids. Those are important things for me and what I do. All right, we're going to get out of that. And I showed you the help window. So we'll come down here at the bottom. This shows you the constellation lines. So I'll turn them off and you can see that the typical lines drop off. And then if you don't want to see the names of the constellations for some reason, you can click that. I don't use this. This is the art, constellation art. To me, that's distracting, but it's there if you want it. If you want to see the right ascension and declination grid, you can turn that on. And likewise, if you want to see the altitude and azimuth grid, you can turn that on and off. Notice down here that we can see kind of a glow and pictures of things that look like the horizon through here. That's controlled by this. This is the horizon, so you can turn it off and you can see things that are below the horizon. And likewise here, you can eliminate clouds and fog and other things that are near the horizon. And these are for the cardinal points. I like this. I want to know where I'm looking at in the sky. So if I turn that off, you can see that southeast, south, and southwest all went away. And then these are the deep sky objects. You can turn them off and on, and the solar system objects here. This button right here is for equatorial movement of the sky screen. That'll become apparent when I show you some other things here in a little while. This is a very important button right here. This is the center button. I'm going to show that right now. So M47, well, I'll click something else. We'll click on this. So this is M50. When you scroll down and you hit this thing, that centers the sky display up on M50. And then you can use your mouse wheel to zoom in and you can see things more in depth. So as you zoom in, you see more and more and more stars. And in this case, it's a little open cluster. And I'm going to hit the escape key. I'm sorry, I'm going to right click and zoom it or take the focus off of that. So I'm going to hit the mouse wheel again, zoom back out. And now I'm back to where I was before. Now, since I'm showing you how things are moving around a little bit, I'm going to kind of skip around, but I'm holding down the left mouse button and just moving the pointer. And you can move your screen around, left and right, up and down. And then, of course, I showed you zoom in, zoom out. But there are a couple cool ways to get around to the different cardinal points. So I can hold down the shift key and hit N, and that takes me directly north. Or likewise, hit shift E, and that gives me the east. So I'm going to go back to the south again and show, I'm going to show a line. So if I'm going to hit the semicolon key, and that popped up the meridian line on the display. Now you can turn this on by a menu off the configuration, but I like this better. I don't show the meridian that often. And then I can click the comma key, for example, and it shows me the ecliptic. So anyway, those are a couple quick things about the sky display. This button right here are bookmarks, and that's one of my favorite features, and I'm going to show that towards the end. I'm going to skip over angles because I put that in myself. And then these next few things are things that I don't hardly ever use, so I'm not going to spend any time on it. Exoplanets, meteor showers, search meteor showers, and satellites. And then these buttons right here are the time controls. So that button right there, you can see the time right here. We're clicking at normal speed, so it's going 1 second at a time. This button right here will set the time to the current time. And this button right here will speed things up. And this button right here will slow things down. So if you click once, you'll notice the clock going at a faster than usual pace. Click twice, goes even faster. Click 3 times, and you can see the sky starting to move. You want to stop it, you hit that button, the go button, and if you want to just pause it all together, hit the same button again, and you're stopped at where you left off. Let's see, let me bring up something here. Let's do M47. We'll do M47 again. So I'm going to click on M47. You can see the information about it is here. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to center on it. And then I'm going to click, I'm going to run my mouse wheel and zoom in on it. And it says our field of view right now is just under 5 degrees. Cool thing you can do to plug in, but you can configure cameras and eyepieces. So I'm going to click on ocular. And this is going to show me what M47 would look like through my TeleVue Genesis and a 26mm Plaza. Click again, turn it off. Likewise, if I hit this button right here, this brings up one of my cameras. So again, on my TeleVue Genesis, but in this case, it's on my ASI 294 camera. Now, I always like to image with north up in my camera. So that brings up one of the things I skipped down here. If you click on this button right here, this is equatorial mode. It puts north at the top. And that's the way I like to take all my pictures, with north at the top. So when you're done with that, you just turn it off. Oh, yeah, turn it off. And for some of you that use Telrads, you can even put a Telrad site on there. And then you configure all your cameras and things with the wrench button here. Okay. Let's see where I am. Show that, show that. Okay, now we're going to show things are mushing. This is the thing about the program that I like the best. So I'm going to turn off the equatorial mode again here. And I'm going to zoom back out. And I'm going to do search. And I'm going to buy object. And I'm going to find the moon. And oh my goodness, the moon's below the horizon right now. Well, that's not really a problem. We'll just go down here and turn off the horizon. And I'm going to turn off the clouds and things. So now I'm going to turn the equatorial mode back on, and I still got things centered. I'm going to zoom in. So here's the moon. Now I'm going to hit the equal button, which is advance 1 day. See how it's showing me what the moon's going to look like through its phase cycle every night? I think this is just cool. I used to do lunar occultations, and this is kind of a neat thing. All right, so that's that. Now I'm going to get into bookmarks. Remember, I told you I was going to bring up the bookmarks a little later. Well, now's the time. So these are bookmarks, and bookmarks are nothing more than saving an object, a place, a time, and you can come back and later and recall it. So I've got several things saved off, and I'm going to show you one of the photography sessions I have planned out. And we're going to go to Jupiter, and it was back in October at 2134. So I clicked on that, and then I said, go to bookmark. And so Stellarium just sent me right to Jupiter on the date and time that I wanted. So here's a cool thing. I'm going to zoom in on Jupiter. I'm going to make sure I'm centered here. It says I am. And so you can see that we have Callisto, we have Io, and the shadow of Io on Jupiter. So I can use a thing called time dragging. So I'm going to hold down the control key and run my mouse wheel, and I'm just advancing my mouse wheel. And you can see Io coming off Jupiter, and you can see the shadow and the other moon advancing. And then you can see the red spot coming into the center of the planet. And just one of the neat things you can do with bookmarks. Show you another thing we can do with bookmarks. We're going to go to Comet Atlas. Go to bookmark. This is on February the 12th at just after 1 o'clock. All right, so I'm there. First of all, I'm going to zoom out a little bit because, get rid of this for just a second, because we're in way too close. And I'm going to take off the equatorial mode because I don't really need it here. So one of our imagers had taken a picture. He was working on M58 and the Siamese twins, but he had something in his field that was moving. Well, a couple of our imagers that had knowledge gave him some clues as to what it was. And Doug Lively, for one, said, well, that looks like Comet Atlas to me. So I said, well, let me look at this. You know, he wasn't exactly sure it was Comet Atlas, but I did something that kind of removed all doubt. So I'm going to click on the calculations page and go to ephemeris. And I've pre-filled in M5 Atlas here. I'm going to set the time to the 10th of February on the start. And I'm going to set it to the 11th on the end. And I've got the time skip set to 6 hours. So I'm going to say calculate ephemeris. And wham, it posted up a picture of where that comet was at each time in there. And he looked at his picture and checked with I sent him a screenshot of this thing, and it exactly matched his photographs. He had a whole series of photographs, and it showed the path that the comet was going relative to his galaxy M58 and the Siamese twins. So that, in my mind, is a super cool feature. So I'm going to shut that back off, zoom back out, and I'm going to stop there. How am I doing on time, Phyllis? Oh, okay. I went longer than I expected. I apologize for that, but we'll go for questions now and have at it. Anybody?
Yeah, we had one question about when the next grazing lunar occultation will be.
Oh boy, I don't know. If you're a member of IOTA, the International Occultation Timing Association, they have a program that you can load on your computer, and you can run a set of calculations against objects, in this case, mostly stars that get occulted by the moon, and you can tell when occultations happen. So I'm assuming you were talking about grazing occultations, but the brighter stars occultations can also be found in other places, like the Observer's Handbook from the Royal Canadian Astronomical Society.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been messing with Stellarium for a few months, and I was looking for something in the constellation Camelopardalis. Going to need a class on pronunciation. But so I would center on the constellation, and it wouldn't match up to anything I was seeing in the books. And so I thought this was a bug. Okay. So oh, by the way, the support on this, they're very responsive. So you got to get to the discussion forums that is out in GitHub where they have the source code for this product. So I sent this report. I says, what's wrong with this constellation? It doesn't match up with anything in the books. And this is where I learned about the star cultures. Like if I'd been born on a Pacific island or something, I would be interpreting the shape, the patterns in the sky totally different from, say, if I was born in Western Europe. And it turns out, yeah, that's the way I was seeing it. So like when you install the product, this is the default view. Now, this is not what I learned from the guy that responded back to me was, this is to get to the IAU defined shapes, you have to go to star cultures and specify the Western sky and telescope. So I was curious how yours was set up, how your star cultures were set up. Like if you go over to, go there and then go to sky lore. Yeah, sky lore. Yeah, okay. Now scroll down to below Western.
You want to see
On the left-hand side.
On the left side, scroll down.
Okay.
To scroll down one, go under Western. Okay, select the sky and telescope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he told me, the technician told me that this is the setting you got to go to if you want to see the constellations in Stellarium as they appear in most of like the books, and these are apparently the IAU 88, I don't know what you call them, sanctioned or defined shapes. So if you notice, this is a real different shape than the
really
Western star lore.
Yeah,
So I thought that was
different.
real interesting. And as an exercise, if you go through all the different star lores or star cultures, it's amazing the different views of the sky and how different cultures interpreted the patterns of the stars.
So we would probably see, if we went to something that was more like what the British have, we would, instead of seeing the Big Dipper, we'd see the plow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating. So there is a whole group that just really studies, I guess, different cultures and how they used the night sky.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Mark, we have one more posted here.
Okay.
Do you know whether you can adjust the brightness display of the Galilean moons?
I don't know that exactly. I do know that when you look at the moons, the brightness is adjusted by where they are. I'm going to bring up this bookmark again, go back to this Jupiter thing I had before. So I'm not going to scroll in quite as tight this time. So notice that that Europa and Ganymede are pretty bright right here. But then as you look at Io on the surface of the planet, it's pretty dim, which it's almost impossible to see visually. And Callisto is also hard to see. So are you asking, can you change how bright these things are?
Yeah.
As they're showing right now?
Yeah, I was curious because they seem so much more bright than you would see them in the sky, for example.
If we go over here to sky and solar system object, scale, I'm looking. I see where we can say scale of our moon.
Minor bodies, maybe?
Minor bodies, I don't know.
I don't know.
Where?
I don't know.
Yeah. If you can do it, it will be in here somewhere. But I'm sorry that I don't know the exact answer as to what you're asking. But if you can do it, it would be here. And I would suggest Googling it There's so many people using this product that anything you want to know, somebody else has likely posted something out about it on the web.
Mark, while you're on that page,
Mhm.
I had seen years and years ago when I first encountered Stellarium, I had seen that there was going to be a moon coming out of the shadow of Jupiter at a certain time. So I set up and was looking and it popped out of the shadow, like a little 16th magnitude star, and it got brighter. This has nothing to do with Stellarium yet.
Yeah.
But, so I noted the time and I was pretty excited because I'd actually seen it happen and it became the full brightness of the little moon. And I went back in and it was off by a fairly long period of time. And I thought, again, there must be something wrong with either me or the program. And if you could back up to that last screen that showed how to control.
This.
Yeah. Up there, at the very top on the right-hand column, it says simulate light speed.
Yep.
In my program, when it came set up, it wasn't checked. So what happened was it was showing me the time the moon cleared the shadow, their time, and you had to click that block. So you were looking at the moon come out our time.
Oh, okay. So the
Oh,
light time
exactly
between
the right
Jupiter and
amount.
us.
Yeah, I just had to check that block and it matched what I saw.
Okay.
So they're-
I pretty much have these as default.
Yeah.
So I didn't really change anything. So I
Well,
think
they
they might
probably
have,
defaulted. I'm just mentioning that because there's so many things to figure out about. They're all fun, but if you think there's something wrong, you probably would find out how to fix it fairly easily.
yeah, they've got super fine controls over a lot of stuff on this thing.
All right, you've got one more question.
One more question, okay?
What is the origin of the high-res photographs of the planets, moon, and constellations?
I do not know.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I do not know.
So I know that depending upon the options, some of them you'll get from the Digital Sloan survey.
On the planets?
Well, on some of the deep sky ones.
Oh, I thought they were asking about planets. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if there was also other ones, but
I don't know.
It was mostly about.
oh, the constellation. Sorry, I misread that. Okay, I take
Okay.
that back.
All right,
Okay.
so
All right. I'm gonna turn the microphone back over to Phyllis, and I'm gonna stop sharing
yeah,
so she can have it back. And I'm gonna mute. Oops. Let me mute.
kill your stick. How's that?
Good.
You are, yeah, okay. So I think that was a pretty good presentation. I certainly learned some things. The next one will demonstrate, I'll go over very briefly for reasons that I'll cover at the end of the discussion. So I'm going to show a program called Carte du Ciel. And let's see if I can.
Yeah. All right.
There we go. You need to probably. Can everybody hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Carte du Ciel is a new, an old program. It's been out for many years. It has been open source and free for all those years. By the way, you can contribute to this product and to Stellarium if you want to. If you go on the respective product website, you can read about how to collaborate. So the program I'm showing is sort of led by the original author who lives in Switzerland and speaks French. So you'll notice that the documentation isn't perfect English, and that's because it's not written by a native English speaker. I think he does a great job. Anyway, his name is Patrick Chevalier, and as far as I know, he responds to support questions pretty quickly. He's a busy guy as far as I can tell. He had an asteroid named for him within the last couple of weeks, so his ventures are fairly well known, I think. At any rate, we have seen 4 different products. This is our 4th. And I would tell you that I don't need to spend a lot of time with this product, because by now you've noticed that they all share a lot of features. You can configure the toolbar in this program. So I've made a few customizations, but most of the things that you're going to want to do are either already on one of these toolbars down the left side, across the top, or down the right side. Most of the things you'll want to do are there. The thing I love about this is that if I can't remember, I can float my cursor over and a hint will be displayed that helps me to remember what the little button does. I can drag the screen around. I can hop to different zoom levels and cardinal points. I can change the grid that is displayed. Right now, I have the out as mode displayed, and this heavy gray line is the meridian, the line that goes from south to north and goes directly overhead. So I typically like the out as display because I use a Dobsonian telescope. I do not use an equatorial, but if you want equatorial grid, you can turn that on. You can actually turn the grid lines on and off. You can turn the labels of the constellations on and off. You can turn the constellation lines all on and off. One of the things that I find to be particularly strong about this particular program is that it's got a lot of data in it as it ships, but it has an immense amount of data available to load into the program. Like one of the recent Gaia star releases, you can load that into this program. So you can get extremely accurate data with this particular program. It isn't the prettiest display, but that has the advantage of not requiring a lot of heavy duty graphics hardware. So if you have a computer that doesn't have a very up-to-date 3D graphics processor that can handle OpenGL, which is Open Graphics Language, and some of the prettier planetariums, then this selection is for you. I believe this will run on older versions of Windows. It will run on Linux, several different versions. It will run on Mac OS. So being open source, it is also cross-platform, and it is not a hardware hog, meaning up-to-date graphics that are so beautiful to look at, but some people just don't have that type of graphics display in their computer. So it turns out that you can zoom as you could with Stellarium. The crosshairs here in the center of the screen, if I position that over a star, then I can find out what that star is. And I can click again on the label to receive more information about it. Now, I haven't explored the time skip options for planets and things like Mark showed, but I believe this program can do at least part of that. The wondrous thing to me is that we have so many great options in free programs. It is really crazy. I know that's an intensely brief discussion. Does anybody have any particular questions? If you do, I'll try to answer, but I don't use these anywhere near as much as Mark uses Stellarium. I cannot see the chat log at the moment.
Yeah, what does Camel Pardalis look like?
Yeah, this is the search box. I hope I spelled it right. That's what it looks like.
DEL.
I call it the camel because all that other is too much. But as you can see, it wanders around in the northern sky.
That matches.
That matches. Yeah, that's a good.
You like that?
Yeah, that's the IAU version.
Well, you know, you can flip the screen around in this display so that it matches an inverted view like a refractor, or a left-right reversed like a reflector. So there are a lot more features here than I am showing, but we've gone a little long, and I wanted to get around to sort of a recap. Are there any other questions about Carte du Ciel?
Well, maybe only to say that it points pretty accurately if you're using it for a go-to.
It does have telescope support. I don't use that. I could, but
I do, Phyllis.
yeah,
I mean, I use my telescope control and for locating things, and
it works well. Yeah.
extremely well. You have to go to the setup menu and set up your scope system and that kind of thing, but I've never had any problem with it at all. Fulbright told me about it, and it's what he was using, and so I started using it, and I've been very
Right.
happy for several years.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I am gonna attempt to unshare that screen and share a different one. No, I don't. Okay. So now, if all the Zoom gods are with me, I can show my PowerPoint slides and yeah. But now I have to somehow share the screen. This might be the fun part, huh? Well, I might get to this and I might not. Here we go. Share screen. Yep. That one. Yeah. Sorry about that. Sometimes it takes me a minute. There we go. I had the wrong hotkey. Please pardon me. Yeah, I put a few thoughts together to share with everyone about the 4 titles we have discussed in the last 2 weeks. I think that everyone who has presented is still online. So if a question pops up about a specific title, hopefully the presenter can speak up. I thought about some facts to share about tonight's presentations. Stellarium is written in Qt C++. You can get your hands on that compiler for free for non-commercial use. So if you wanted to contribute to Stellarium, that's what you would have to get in order to contribute. Since it is open source, I believe all that source was on GitHub. You could check out the source and cobble something together for yourself. Also, Stellarium has scripting. So I have delved into that a little bit. I believe I found some documentation on how to do that. It wasn't hard. And as Mark said during his presentation, there are a ton of people out there who use Stellarium. So the likelihood of getting a question answered through a forum is high. Lots of people use it. I think Mark discussed it would run on Mac OS. Does anybody here run it on Mac? Okay, Steve does. It runs on Linux. It runs on Windows, 32-bit and 64-bit. And it'll run on your web browser. I think I looked at that once, but it's not something I've done a lot of. Has anybody tried that? I think one of the uses, one of the big users of this is not only amateur astronomers, but planetarium educator types. So they'll write a script to do a planetarium show and run through that script and do it either on a local computer or on a web browser. The contributors that I have seen for this, the lead programmer seems to be a guy in Russia named Alexander. He is terrific about answering support questions. I have reached him through cloudy nights, and he's very responsive. I think the most important thing that Mark shared was that hotkey cheat sheet he printed. He went from poking around and being frustrated to being productive almost immediately, I noticed, because he used the Sky 6 for many years. And he switched over to Stellarium. He actually used the Sky X for a short period and was frustrated, and then tried Stellarium, and he liked it after he got that cheat sheet printed with all the hotkeys on it. So that's a super good help pointer, in my opinion. If you want to visit the Stellarium site, go to stellarium.org. So that's there. The strengths that I think I see with Stellarium obviously are that it's free. The display is beautiful and there are tons of options. That beautiful display comes with a heavy graphics hardware usage. You'll need to check out the requirements for the graphics card that you use in your computer to make sure it can support it. If it does, it's as pretty a display as I've seen. You can write a plugin to provide a customization. I use a plugin for Stellarium called Remote Control. And my program, Deep Sky Planner, talks to Stellarium to command it to move its display using the Remote Control plugin. So those are out there. I can't be sure that you have to write those plugins in C++. You would have to look at the developer's documentation for that, but those are out there. And then of course, people write scripting for smaller, more personal customizations. With the Carte Ciel, you'll see this funny QR code down in the right-hand corner. That's the link to where you can download Carte Ciel. It's a pretty long URL, so I put the QR code on there for you. You can just grab that with your phone if you want to. Carte Ciel was written in Lazarus-free Pascal. And I think what that really means is it is an object Pascal descendant of a commercial package known as Delphi. So if you know Pascal or Object Pascal, you'll be happy. This source is also open to the public. You can download that source, and I believe also it is on GitHub. You can download a package already made for Linux or Mac OS or Windows. We covered the author, who's Patrick from Switzerland. And there again at the bottom is the URL to go and download the software if you want to. The strengths of Carte Ciel, in my opinion, are that it's free. And although it's not as beautiful as some of those others, it has light graphics requirements, which is a real plus for some people with older computers. The other big plus with Carte Ciel, I think, is the wide variety of catalog data that you can import into the product. So if you want or need extremely accurate star data, you can go out there and download the data release 3 of Gaia and see all those stars if you need them. There are deep sky objects out there as well. The data that is available with CART-DCL is extremely accurate. They have some of the latest planetary modeling in CART-DCL. So if you need to use very accurate models, they're there. They take longer to compute, so there is a downside, but if you want accuracy, it is there. And CART-DCL also has scripting. I think it was a Pascal-like script, but I would have to recheck that to be sure. We had the URL. You'll find information not only about the full product, but how to contribute to the product if you want. So last week we talked about Starry Night, and I hope Dave is still here. Maybe. Anyway, it's written in Visual C++, I believe, by Simulation Curriculum. They're in Canada. It runs on Mac OS and Windows. So it's really a desktop designed planetarium. That same company provides Sky Safari if you want mobile. So they do cover both bases that way. Starry Night has got a plug-in capability like Stellarium did. It is an odd architecture, but it has proven to be very capable over the years. Essentially, if you want to write your own plugin, you need to write a hook that loads with Starry Night, and it will talk to your plugin. So it's a little odd, but it can be done. I wrote a plugin for Starry Night in my C++ compiler, which was not Visual C. So there were some challenges there, but we got by it and it works fine. So again, this is a commercial product. They don't really want you to contribute to it, but I can plug into it. The display in Starry Night is really pretty. The user interface offers lots and lots of options. It does use pretty much standard looking Windows menus or Mac looking menus. And their product URL, if you want to go look over the product or buy it, go to starrynight.com. And then the last one we had last week was Sky Safari, which ran on the iPad for the demonstration, but it also runs on the iPhone and the Android tablet or phone and Mac OS. It is a commercial product. As such, I don't think you need to contribute. They don't take contributions. As far as I know, the base layer of all that is written in C++, and then the user interface is written for the Apple products with Objective-C, and for the Android products, I'm guessing in Java using Android Studio. But the display is beautiful in Sky Safari. I really am surprised that they got it that beautiful on Android too, because that's the Apple GUI display is known hardware. The Android isn't known hardware. So I think it's OpenGL, and I think it really worked out beautifully for them. They have menus to control the program, if you remember, but they were down at the bottom of the screen. They weren't located the same way that the desktop products are. So I would say that of all these 4 titles, trying to come up with a standard user interface is impossible. So if you want to come up with a Windows interface, any of these break the rules for Windows interfaces, or a Mac interface, or a standard iPhone interface. there are some rules bent. And it's because this is a really hard product to design a user interface for when your competition is something like Microsoft Word. They just do very different things. So be prepared for a learning curve. We have lots of choices, which is not the way it was 30 years ago at all. So try to read the documentation, play with these things, and try to get really comfortable with one or maybe two. I've tried to get comfortable with 6 of them, and it's not working very well. It's a bit confusing. Resources. Last week, we had a discussion about how to make a local horizon model to go into any of these software programs. Mark figured out a way to do it, and he wrote this up at this blog post that I put out there. I think you can read what he did and figure out how you can do this for yourself with whichever of these products that you choose. So I put a QR code out there for that horrible URL at a blogspot post. So with that, that's all I've got. And does anybody have any comments or questions?
Yes. So, question, I guess, for anyone who has used any of the software packages discussed, or even something else, and as for telescope controlling, I'm currently using Stellarium to control my mount, and found that that works pretty well. But just wondering if anyone's had experience with Stellarium and other things like Ciel, and can comment on either accuracy or ease of use.
You know, Mike, I have done some testing with it.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to remember what I used. I think I have tested with Ciel, with one of the Club Loaner telescopes that was one of those Celestron refractors.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all I've got, because my mounts aren't driven. They're not go-to mounts.
Yeah, as I said, Mike, I use Seal to control my scope, and it talks to all the other software fine. Everything works great. I use Sky Safari for planning, for layout and that kind of thing, just because it's prettier to figure out what I want to shoot and what my telescope field of view is and that sort of thing. But Seal works great. Once you get it all set up,
Yep.
I've had no problem with it at all.
Yeah, I've been pleased so far with Stellarium. Again, with Stellarium, oftentimes, as Mark was demonstrating, you got to learn the hotkeys are sometimes faster than trying to go through, and find the right button or things like that. You would think that if you're using kind of a desktop version, you could click on an object, right click, and say go to that object, but you can't. You have to hit the object, and then your first scope connected, you have to hit Control-1, and that's how you slew or go to that object. But it's been it's worked great for me so far, and it has the ability to kind of, as you progress over the night, you might wind up, your alignment may not be perfect. You can kind of realign or resync to objects. So it kind of helps keep it going. I will say that I was using version 20 point something. I can't remember, maybe 20.1 or 20.2. Right before this call, I upgraded to 21.4, which I think is the most recent release. And in that process, it told me that my telescope controller software, or the plugin that I was using, is obsolete. So I'll have to re-download that and reconnect everything. but that does seem to work. And I also mentioned, I think at one point last week about potentially Stellarium, trying to use Stellarium as well as driving 3 screens on my current laptop was causing some issues. Upgraded it to the latest version, no more issues. So whatever was so driving just fine now with 3 screens with the current version. So
Incredible.
yep.
Yeah, my only thought is what we said last time, and Phyllis, I think you said it beautifully. Just the idea about, just finding one that you like, kind of trying a little bit of different ones, and then just sort of, really using it, getting used to it. I know for the Starry Nights one, I think I've also enjoyed as you were describing it, the education piece. It was helpful to know sort of how it evolved last time, because that part for me has been also a kind of a cool part. My last astronomy course was 45 years ago, so coming back and just getting some of the updating and stuff has just been it's been pleasant for that reason as well. Can't speak to the accuracy, but it does have telescope control, those kind of things. But I don't have any kind of I have a right ascension drive just so I can look at something just for a period of time, but I don't have the whole thing with the go-tos, those kind of stuff. So I don't know how accurate it is in that regard. So.
Yep. Does anybody have anything else?
One quick question. I was curious, the monthly star charts or sky charts you see on various websites, you can download and kind of like prepare yourself for that night. Is Cart to Ciel one of the tools they use to generate those kind of things?
They could, but I don't know. I don't know. You certainly can print charts with Carte du Ciel. You can do that. I don't do it. I tend to take my laptop out and use whatever software I've been using lately. You've probably seen me fuss about that. I can't get it to do that. Why doesn't it? Don't try to use multiple of these at the same time. It just isn't good. But to answer your question, it's an open source product, free license. So a person could share a sky chart for the month. No copyright violation. So you could definitely be seeing that.
Yeah.
I know that the magazines use things that they generate themselves, and it'll say that it's copyrighted. But depending on where you find these charts, they very well could be generated by Carte du Ciel. Could be. Any others? Okay. Well, I guess that does it for tonight.